one at the time.
Hey, I'm already got the bottom
Throw it.
power here. Actually, no, that's
Okay.
okay. But got the bottom. Boom. Got the body. Don't step on this. Don't step on my snowman. Okay. Okay. So do you want to know why it's called? No. Do you want to know why it's called a snowman? Because it's called Punch Man.
Hi, what's your name?
So please don't mind my appearance. Today is a snow day, so my goals for today quickly flipped from get ready and film for Winterween to have a snow day with my kids and play out in the snow and build a snowman and chill for the rest of the day. So that's what we've been doing. This lighting though is like 10 out of 10. Having the blinds open with the snow outside just really is doing something for my soul. We are like a no light house. Like I'm the friend that when my friends come over, they feel the need to bring lanterns because I will like refuse to put my lights on. Not really, but I do try to just set the ambience with lamps because that's my go-to, but I love natural lighting. Anyways, it is the first day of Winterween. This is hosted by Gabby over at Gabby Reads. She does the Summerween, so you can check out the Summerween Instagram page and for all of the like Winterween details over there. If you're just seeing this video, you have missed it this year, but stay tuned because Summerween is usually like beginning of July-ish. This is a readathon that is a week, 7 days, and you have 5 prompts, I believe, which I need to grab. Oh, well, I think I have it right here. I have my little list because there's a couple books on my TBR for this that I do not have physically. So I'm just going to have to like throw them up for you guys when I talk about them because I have like the audiobooks or the ebooks. So for the first prompt, it is reading a book at dark or at night, or in the dark or at night. And for this prompt, I thought I would play also on the title, The Darkest Night. It is a horror anthology that I really wanted to get to. It came out in 2024. And there's a bunch of authors that I absolutely love. Rachel Harrison, I believe Josh Mallerman. You know, I wish I could think of a couple more off the top of my head, but this is the cover. And I have the audiobook for this one on my library Hoopla app. So I'm going to utilize that because anthologies are very hit or miss for me on if I actually want to own them physically myself, because I don't know if they're the type that I will come back to and read. So I usually borrow them from my library, but they did not have a physical copy of this yet with it being so new. So I am using the Hoopla app for the audio. There is 22 stories, so I am going to probably start it today and sprinkle it throughout my 7 days, just so that it's not an overwhelming one day of reading 22 short stories. The next one is just read a horror or a thriller book, because the whole point of the ween is to have Halloween in your winter or Halloween in your summer. So you want to sprinkle in some of the spookiness. But for me, I pretty much just read horror with a little bit of other stuff. So that's going to be pretty easy for me. For this prompt, this was my hardest one because I went back and forth on it, on just being able to read any horror or any thriller. And I was like, what have I not gotten to? And there's just too many to count. But this year, since I failed miserably last year reading through all of Edgar Allan Poe, I thought that for this prompt, I will fit in some of the extra ones that I don't have planned for a certain concept video. to read, so that by the time I get through said concept videos, I will have completed every Edgar Allan Poe within, I think, I can't remember if I started in 2023 or 2024, but 2025 will be the year that I do officially wrap up all of his stories. So whenever I have readathons, I might be sprinkling a couple in just like this to help myself like get a little bit more prepared. I wrote down a couple of his that I just don't have room for on other videos that I'm doing, or they don't make sense in those videos and I'm trying to figure out where to put them. But they're kind of really weird ones, not really Winterween vibes. But I'm hoping I still get Winterween vibes from just reading Edgar Allan Poe's work in general, because usually it's like a little unsettling anyways. But they're ones like Eureka, which is like a longer poem, The Philosophy of Furniture, and a couple others that I just wrote down that maybe I will get to in this, but we will see. I feel like those are not going to be as exciting for you guys, but they're going to be exciting for me to like check off my list. So that's why I'm excited about them. Moving on, the next one is have a house on the cover or in the title, and I am checking off both of them. You guys are going to see this, so I'm going to sound probably like a broken record in this video, because this is one of my books that I have to complete for the Best of Horror 2024 for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I actually think both of my Goodreads Good Choice Awards videos are going to be up before this video, if I'm not mistaken. So please go check them out. They took a lot of work. I read the top 20 horror that was picked by Goodreads for their Good Choice Awards. So all of them came out in 2024, and this is one of them. It was just perfect for the prompt, having a house on the cover and a house in the title. And I had already started this, but did not make it very far, because the beginning of this year, let's just say I finished the Angel of Indian Lake trilogy from Stephen Graham Jones at the end of the year, and it was so good. It's one of those books that like in series that are so good that it just leaves you in a book rut afterwards, and like you're just in a slump, you don't know how to get out of it, and nothing's going to be like better than that. And I'm having a hard time, you guys. So I need some extra like motivation to get through my Goodreads horror, because I need to get my second video done and I still have a couple more to go. So 2 birds, 1 stone with this one. And I will be talking to you guys about like the synopsis of these books and stuff once I get to them. The next one is a horror published 5 or more years ago, which is an easy Stephen King for me. I've wanted to get to this one for a long time. I have paused my Stephen King readings like from publication order, because I started the Dark Tower expanded series, which is like 28 books, and through it you read like the Dark Tower series itself, but you also take these detours off to like a bunch of his other work that has like mentions from the Dark Tower or like names from the Dark Tower and stuff. So between that and then just some random rereads like Carrie and It and stuff like that, I've kept myself busy. Like Stephen King, besides Edgar Allan Poe, is still like my top author of 2024. But I have told myself that although I'm going to continue and actually do my Dark Tower series vlogs this year, I am going to circle back to the publication order whenever I can, and this was one of my next ones up, The Dead Zone, so I'm hoping to get to it for this readathon. And it's a smaller Stephen King, so I'm excited about that. And then the last one I have as an ebook on my Hoopla. My library is coming through for this readathon. And this prompt is to read a novella, a graphic novel, or just listen to an audiobook. So I chose an ebook, Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. This is his newest that came out, I think September, October of last year, and I have just not been able to get to it, but Nat Cassidy is one of my favorites, so I've heard it's very unsettling and a fun trip and pretty short. So I am excited to finally have a place to put this book and to be able to read it. We are going to have some snow cream and snuggle in today and probably watch a lot of movies, if I'm being honest. But I wanted to at least check in with my TBR and tell you guys that I am getting back into House of Bone and Rain by Gabino Iglesias. I have never read anything from this author, and I'm not gonna lie, so far I wish I was enjoying it more. It's not reading so much as horror as it's reading kind of just like a sad like literary fiction. And I know that we're going to have some horror, but I feel like it's going to be more so like this like realism horror type going on instead of like just full on typical horror, I guess. It has been said that it is Stand By Me with a haunted obsidian dark heart. A group of young men seek vengeance after one of their mothers is murdered in a Puerto Rican slum. So this does take place in Puerto Rico. We're following these like childhood friends. There's Gabe, Xavier, Tavo, Paul, Bimbo. I don't know how you say his name. I do have the audiobook for this, so I'm thinking about starting it just to see if it will help me like pick up the pace a little bit. I think I just need to get more into the story to be enjoying it a little bit more. Maybe it's just a slow start for me. But yes, what I've picked up so far is that a mother has been murdered from one of these boys, and they're kind of like making a pact together for this friend to get like revenge on the said people who have done this, and they're trying to figure out like who it is. And I just wish that there was a little bit more oomph to it, and like stuff's even happened and I'm still just kind of like, I don't know. I just don't know if this writing style is going to be for me or if this type of story is really going to be for me. I also think being in a reading slump and also like where my like headspace has been lately, I'm like, I don't know if a sad book is really doing it for me right now. I really feel for these boys and like what they're going through and everything that's going on, but I don't know. I just kind of wish that they maybe were a little bit more exciting than what they are. I think it's going to be a challenging read, but that's why I feel like I should probably try to tackle it the first day, if not the first and second day. But I will check back in when I've made some progress or have finished, let you guys know what I think.
Not familiar. I have the announcement down there and all the reading prompts and things like that. It's just a week-long readathon where we kind of bring the spooky vibes of, you know, Halloween into other seasons. So we do Winterween, Summerween, and it's a good time.
Careful, might be warm.
Since I left you guys, I finished a book for another vlog, and I also finished House of Bone and Rain, So I thought while I finished getting ready, I could tell you guys about this one, and then maybe pick what I'm going to jump into next. Although we're getting ready to take the boys to see Sonic 3. It's like almost 2 hours long. So please think of me. I am playing with my makeup today too, so don't mind me. But this book it's very complicated to talk about because I am one who is trying to branch out a lot more and be a lot more diverse with my reading, and reading from different authors with different backgrounds, and those said books being about people with different backgrounds and just very diverse. And this one definitely checks those boxes for me. This follows, like I mentioned earlier, these boys who live in Puerto Rico, and one of their mothers is murdered, and this ends up being kind of like a king. I think the book called it like a kingpin or whatever. It's giving like mob, and they're trying to get to like the bottom of it and figure out like who killed his mother, and kind of like get revenge on said person. And so it's very like revenge driven, which I like revenge stories. But this one, I mentioned that it was kind of like realism because it just feels so too real when it comes to like what's going on in their like little city or whatever. And knowing now after reading the author's like afterword too, or like acknowledgements, knowing how like close to home it was for him and how he wanted to tell the story of like how things had been and those things, that is what makes it feel a lot more real and a lot more intense, and not really like the horror I typically enjoy. Don't get me wrong, I sometimes am in the mood for that type of horror and wanting the real life aspect and how scary like real life can actually be. But I don't think I was in that headspace right now for that. And so I think that took me out of the story a lot because I just kept like, oh my God, like it's just very heavy, very grief centered, and I just feel like sometimes you have to be in the right headspace for that. With that being said, there is a lot of talk of like, I guess you could say Puerto Rican like folklore and like myths and legends and stuff about a hurricane, because in the midst of all of this happening with them seeking revenge, there is also a hurricane that's hitting. And the cool part about it, that I thought was a nice touch to the story, was the fact that the hurricane, you know how like they're named? The hurricane is named Maria, which is the name of said mother who was killed. So it's kind of like Maria's coming for them too. That was a nice like little spooky touch to it, with like then going into the real life horror of like natural disasters, and those obviously hit really close to home with how much I feel like the world faces each year with natural disasters, and everybody who is either dying or like losing everything because of these. But it also goes into play with some like folklore about how every time there is like a natural disaster, hurricane or whatever there, it's said that anybody who is pregnant and has like their little ones will like have like abnormalities and like be born with like really sharp teeth, or just so many different things. But it goes a lot darker than that, and those aspects of the story I ate up, because although it's dark and it's sad, I love like folklore and like legends and stuff like that so much, especially like in a book that I'm reading. But with that being said, I feel like there was just so much going on with this book. Like, we're following these people, but then we're jumping from Gabe's point of view of him and his friends and on this journey to find this person, while like brutally attacking people on that journey, to these women who are talking about like these urban myths and legends. And it just, is kind of whiplash back and forth a lot and trying to tie everything together, or does it tie together? I was really confused at times, and I feel like it made the overall story fall a little flat for me just because I wanted more there. I felt like there was just so many parts of this that made it feel like I was reading several different books in one. And I love the fact that he really wanted to go in on, you know, his home at Puerto Rico and really talk about it and like real life horror that people face and tragedies, and then also wanting to play homage to like their, again, folklore and like natural disasters and so much. But I feel like there was a possibility of so many novels within this one. And I don't know if his other books, because I know there's another one, I think it's like The Devil Takes You Home or something like that from the same author. And I've had my eye on that book for a long time, but I'm like wondering how it's written, if it's kind of the same or not. But I just feel like I was left just very underwhelmed as a whole. I feel like there was moments that I absolutely loved, and I, you know, loved all the information I was getting. And I loved the tragic tale of these young men and like going through this and seeking revenge. Although it was probably my least part or favorite part of the book, which is the majority of the book. So, but besides that, I liked hearing from the women's side. I loved the folklore. I loved the natural disaster talk and all of those horrors, if it's going to feel or going to be. Okay, so my battery died on me in mid-sentence and now I've lost my train of thought. But again, I like the aspects of this that took up the least amount of this book than I guess the majority of it. But I think because of that and the aspects of just being so confused and just kind of whiplash back and forth, I also forgot that there's like talk about, there's like creature talk, and the overall way that the story went just really took me out. It just threw me through a loop because I was like, wait, what? This feels so like real life, and then we're going to now switch, and it just felt very abrupt and very weird. I hate that I didn't enjoy this more than what I did. I think because of the elements I did enjoy, I would give it a 3 because I did like those, but overall as a book, I didn't really care for this one. Again, I hate that. I hate that that is how I'm landing with this book, but it happens. I would potentially pick up his other one still just to see what it's all about. If you have read it, please let me know if it is worth the time or if it's maybe his better one, because I would give the author another go. I didn't mind the writing, and I just feel like this one needed to be toned down more than what it was. Like, I just felt like it was just so much that it was just really hard to follow too. And maybe that is just a me problem, but that is where I'm landing. Now, moving on to today, I am considering picking up The Dead Zone, but I literally just finished, like, my first book of the year was a Stephen King, so I don't know if I should. Although that one was fantasy and this one is horror, I believe. I'm assuming, The Dead Zone. But I have that, but I also went ahead and borrowed Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. I almost said his username, Cat Nassity. So I'm kind of intrigued to start that one just because I've put it off for so long and it's been such an anticipated one. I also have The Darkest Night anthology that I still haven't started, and I kind of wanted to start it the first day so that I could sprinkle it in because, like I mentioned, it's literally 22 stories that I'm gonna have to fit in with all these other reads in these 7 days. So I for sure want to start that one today. And I'm thinking I will go ahead and start The Dead Zone just so that I am getting some of the bigger ones, even though this isn't that big, but some of the bigger ones kind of out of the way towards the beginning of the readathon. But if for some reason I need to take like a halfway break or something, tomorrow I'll jump into like Rest Stop or something. Let's look this one up. I've heard so many things about this book, and it's like one of his that you don't, like, I feel like a lot of people don't go for this one when they're picking up Stephen King, but the ones who have always say it's so good. Johnny, the small boy who skated at breakneck speed, an accident that for one horrifying moment plunged him into the dead zone. Johnny Smith, the small town school teacher who spun the wheel of fortune and won a 4.5-year trip into the dead zone. John Smith, who awakened from an interminable coma with an accursed power, the power to see the future and the terrible fate awaiting mankind in the dead zone. I guess like these near-death experiences, or like when you're dead for like a minute, is putting them in the dead zone, and is that like the fate of mankind? I don't know. I'm excited for it. I will let you guys know my thoughts. And I think all I can say about The Darkest Night as of right now, because I don't have the physical, is that it is 22 stories and they're all like horror winter reads. So I really wanted to fit it into my December or January. So this is perfect for Winterween. So I'm hoping to get to it today, and I'm gonna try to write down my thoughts and like each author and story as I go, since I will just be listening to it. So you guys will know when I check in with you.
Spotify Audiobooks presents The Darkest Night, 22 Winter Horror Stories by Lindy Ryan and others. Narrated for you by Andy Arndt, Carrie Height, Gary Furlong, Helen Laser, Imogen Church, January Lavoie, Jennifer Aquino, Joe Hempel, Lisa Flanagan, Matt Godfrey, and Stephanie Nemeth Parker. Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven, 1845. Introduction, George C. Romero.
You guys, it has been a wild 24 hours plus since I left you guys. Today is a busy day. I have had kids today, my kids. It is once again another snow day, and they had a friend come over whose parents are working today, so they're just hanging out. I did want to check in because I did it yesterday. It was a lazy day. We watched movies, enjoyed another snow day. I got a lot of like editing and computer stuff, that type of ordeal done. I got a lot of planning done so that my week could go a little bit more smoothly. It's just been snow day after snow day, and then we're coming up on a 5-day weekend with the boys home again. So I'm trying to cram in as much as I possibly can when I can. So yeah, yesterday was that. Also, it was hair dye and horror day. So I watched Robert Eggers' The Witch and loved it. So up my alley. But I also did full purple, which has made it kind of like, it's a vibe in here. Like, up against my purple chair, you can kind of see a little bit of the purple hues. I mean, that's what I'm seeing in my viewfinder, so hopefully you guys can see that too. But I just styled it for the first time, and it's just probably the darkest I've ever went with my hair. But it is a semi-permanent, I think it's called like I can't remember, but it's the dark purple one from Good Die Young. I love their semi-permanents and they just wash out so beautifully and last for how long I typically like, since I do like to switch things up a lot. But it's such a pretty dark winter shade, and most of the lighting in my house, it looks more like brunette, but in the sun or in bright lights, you can see a little bit of the purple hue, but also kind of the vibrancy from my red is still there, so it's really pretty. Besides that, my update for you guys, because I kind of want to make this quick. Earlier, I filmed my 2024 book like recap, and oh my gosh, it took me like almost 2 hours to film it, so I feel like I'm losing my voice, and I just feel so winded, so I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. I've made it about halfway through The Dead Zone, and I am enjoying this. This is about John Smith, the most basic ass name ever, who has had a near-death experience as a young kid. I think I read the synopsis to you guys, but now he's older, he is falling in love with Sarah, and they go to like this carnival fair type thing, and he plays the Wheel of Fortune and he is winning, and she's like, how is he knowing this? How is he getting it? And she's seeing this change in him, like his eye color is changing, and how does he know what he's doing? And when she asked me, she's like, I just know. I can't explain it, but I just know. And he is, you know, up good, gets money for it. They leave, but she's really ill. She falls ill like while they're there. So he drops her off at home and takes a taxi home. And on the way home, he is in a bad car accident, and then is in a coma for like, I think it's like 4 or 5 years. I'm now halfway through, so he is awake. There's more going on, but we are discovering this talent, dare I say another, not really telekinesis, but more like that telepathy, those things that like Stephen King loves writing about, I feel like going on, because this character will pick up something and it's like he gets memories from the past, or this knowledge that he's getting from these near-death experiences. I don't know, I feel like it's all wrapping together and it's really cool. There's already the mention of the dead zone, which is the area in his brain where he's just like, I can't see anymore. That's the dead zone. And it's just really cool concept so far. I'm enjoying it. I don't know how much more I will say about it because I don't want to spoil it anymore for you guys, if you guys ever pick up this one from him. But I am hoping to finish it either tonight or in the morning with my latte, because I need to get my butt in gear with my Winterween reads. With that being said, I have my notebook here because I have made progress on the Darkest Night anthology, and I am loving it. I'm trying not to jinx myself. Yeah, so 2 days ago, after I left you guys, I started it and I read 2 that evening. I read The Mouthless Body in the Lake by Gwendolyn Keist. I don't know how you say her name. This is about this girl who comes home for the holidays, and she goes out to like this lake at like her family's. Like, she talks kind of about like wanting to get away from all the chaos in her family and stuff, and she goes out by the lake, and when she looks in the lake, there is a frozen person in the lake, and it's her lifeless body in the lake, frozen. I felt like it was a take on what you get from the story. I feel like there's so many different ways that you could take this. Obviously, how the story wraps up, it tells you how the author took it, but while reading it, I got this image of it almost like her visually, mentally locking her old self away for when she goes on in life. It's like you're saying goodbye to your old self and it's frozen away in the lake while you're moving on with your life away from like your family and stuff. But I also think that you can take it as that is the person, that is me, but every time I'm home, I have to lock her in there and freeze her because my family's not accepting, or my family isn't great. It's a very dysfunctional, toxic family. It was really good. First story in this, and I gave it 5 stars. And I am gonna throw up my little anthology. You guys are gonna see this all through the new year, all year long, because I really do hope that I can continue this anthology short stories throughout the year. But yeah, I have 2-star to 5-star, and they kind of explain what they each stand for. So 5 stars obviously is I loved it, would recommend it, and it's a favorite. Next is Cold as Ice by Tim Wagner. This is kind of like a creature feature. There's like these white antler wolves. This man is driving and during an ice storm, and it's like these creatures are just like surrounding him. And this one I felt like delved very far into feeling lonely and just disconnected from the world, feeling like you can't find people that relate to you or can make you feel a certain way, and just constantly feeling like a black sheep or outsider. And it was pretty gut-wrenching as well. Some of the metaphors or some of the things I talked about in this story that I landed at a 4-star. And then yesterday I read, I think like 3 or 4 more. Children Aren't the Only Ones Who Know Where the Presents Are Hidden by Josh Malerman. What a mouthful. This one was so good though. I felt like this one really went into like childhood trauma. We follow Lydia, who hates the holidays. She brags about hating the holidays, and people are like, you're so weird, you're so different, you're so quirky for hating the holidays. But she comes to realize why she hates the holidays. And it's this just gut-wrenching reality of visual of this door coming to her mind from her childhood, and something so terrible that happened to her, which I feel like could be a metaphor for a lot of different childhood trauma things. It was really close to home for me. I feel like in a lot of ways, all of these stories have been so fucking sad and like gut-wrenching for me and hitting me in my core, because I'm just like, I have felt this, and I love that. I love that it is touching so much on hard topics that some people don't experience, but a good portion of people do experience and can relate to, and be able to almost have a healing moment. Being able to get that from a creative outlet is just amazing to me. And this was another one I landed at 5 stars, which I'm not shocked. It's Josh Malerman. I love him so. Then it was The Vermin Moon by Haley Piper. I've never read anything from her. And this is about a woman who is remembering the death of her daughter, which was a year ago in the winter. And now a year later, she's burying her dead daughter's rat, who has died, and she's feeling like a complete failure because this was her daughter's pet. Her daughter was sick and told her, please take care of my animals. And the hidden message, or what this story is dealing with, which I feel like is kind of becoming a common theme with these stories, is this one's heavily on grief. And she ends up with this wooden flute that she is told to play to bring the spirit of her daughter. And it's horror, it's creepy, it's terrifying. I give it 5 stars. Then The Body of Lenora James by Stephanie, I don't have it written down. It was Stephanie M. something. But this was an evil witch tale. And since I just watched Robert Eggers' The Witch, I was like, it's like very close on that. Like this witch, we're like in her mind, and she's talking about like she has done, and she's like hunted these young girls and taken their bodies and have used their blood and flesh and stuff like that. And it's terrifying from the get-go. It's with a twist. Like it's like this consuming of these young girls, but she then targets another one, and it's like her attack on this one. But there's this major twist that goes into it that I feel like you should go into it more blindly with. That just was incredible, like so frightening and body horror, and just, it was great. It's another 5 star, you guys. Then my last one, yeah, this is my last one I've read so far, Mr. Butler by Clay McLeod Chapman. So I was excited. This is kind of like a cursed object. This guy opens his door to find this object that he calls Mr. Butler, and it's a cardboard box cutout that, again, we're diving into childhood trauma, childhood abuse, neglect, I would say. And it's kind of a revenge story in a way, but we're following two timelines. Him now as a dad himself and being like, why is this here? This cursed Mr. Butler cardboard box cutout that's talking to him and saying like, take me in, take me, we can be, you know, friends again, blah, 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 blah. And in the back of his mind, he's just like, no. And he's like, why am I saying no to this old friend who at some point comforted me or who took care of me? But it's because I'm protecting my son now. And I loved those aspects of it. Because again, it's touching on so many things that I feel like people could relate to with their childhoods. And even myself now as a mother and the stuff that I went through, I'm just like, I mean, Clay, he writes just silly horror so much, but like sometimes the silliest horror can have the biggest impact of having a hidden message within that is so meaningful and like gut-wrenching that I was like, my eyes were like watering as I was listening to it because it just was so close to home for me. But yeah, we follow this guy who has that timeline, but it also goes back to his childhood where he has this god-awful stepdad who is just treating him horribly and creates this Mr. Butler. Again, it's heart-wrenching and I feel like I can't say much more without giving too much away. But it's good. I really, really enjoyed it and I landed at 5 stars. And that is wild. I already have 5 5-star reads out of this. I am starting to second guess myself and criticize myself for not just buying this anthology because I think this is one that I'm gonna have to own. I've had 1 4-star, but 5 5-stars. They have just been incredible and just back to back. And yes, I've read Clay McLeod Chapman and I've read from Josh Mallerman. I want to say all of these other ones have been new to me authors and their stories have just been written so beautifully. I am just listening to the audio, which is spectacular too, but it's just been so good. 10 out of 10 have been enjoying it. I will say it is very holiday. I thought it was just gonna be more winter to where I was like, oh, I can read it in January. It is very holiday, Christmas, and that vibe so far. I think we're still so close to that time of the year that it's not bothering me, but I think that if you wait too much longer after this time, you may want to just wait for the holidays. But if you have not picked this up by Christmas time, December 2025, what are you doing? Like you have to, it's so good. And again, I still have many stories to get to in this, so I will update you guys, but that is where I'm at right now. Besides that, tomorrow I definitely want to try to finish the Dead Zone, or maybe I'll just keep making like a quarter of the way dent each day until the end of this, but I want to read some more from this anthology, and besides that, I think I have my horror novella from Nat Cassidy and my Edgar Allan Poe. So now I need to fit them in whenever I can as well. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow, and I mean it because my kids have school tomorrow. And hopefully tonight I will be able to make more progress into either the anthology or the Dead Zone. So I'll have something for you guys in the morning. But yeah, until then, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Winterween. Good morning. I told myself I was going to vlog more today, so hoping to be able to do that. There's just something about kids being out of school for so long with the snow days and then going back to school. It's like that gut feeling of the beginning of the school year again that I hate. It's like I've had them for so long and now it's the first day that they're back and I miss them so much, and I know that I should be like very thankful for this time and how much more I can get done around the house work-wise and all the things, but it's hard. It's so quiet here today. Hopefully I'm not like yelling either. I'm keeping these on because I am currently masking. I'm doing the same like glow mask that I've been doing for like my past, I feel like, couple of vlogs I've mentioned it. But yeah, a little pamper sesh this morning. I'm about to go do my morning chores. Also, just for Winterween, I got out one of my spooky season mugs. Honestly, I drink out of my spooky mugs year round. I literally was just drinking out of my Killer Clowns from Outer Space mug the other morning. Very on brand for Winterween. I have also been trying to work on my journal some more. I am wanting to kind of do like a journal video eventually, maybe later on at the end of this month or something, or the beginning of next month. But I have been doing my like witchy page today, trying to catch up and make my page prettier. I journaled a little bit for the wolf full moon, so I need to like make the page a little bit prettier. So that's what I've been doing. I added like the moon to it, so yeah. But besides that, you guys, last night I made more progress on the Dead Zone. I am hoping to finish it today. It's been a little bit of a slower read for me, but I am enjoying myself with it. Again, there's not much more I can really say about it. I feel like I've talked a lot about it. But I did read like 4 more stories from the anthology, so I thought I would at least talk to you guys about those. We have Feast of Grey by Lindy Ryan, the person who edited this anthology, and a Christopher Brooks. This was a grief horror. It follows like this family that's kind of like grieving in general, but it's kind of a, what is it called? Like when it's like a toxic family and it's kind of like passed down generation after generation, and it's like who's gonna break that. And we have this guy who's pretty much in a graveyard this whole time, and he's leaning over his mom's tombstone, and he's like kind of like blaming her for, you know, their past and generational trauma. That's what it is. Blaming her and thinking about how much has been passed down, but it's also kind of like this paranormal element of his dead brother who died whenever he was like 18 of cancer. He's feeling guilty, he's drinking, he's obviously like having a really hard time with his sobriety, and he's thinking about all the horrible things he's done as now a husband and a father, and how he has continued that generational trauma, and now he's feeling guilty about it, and he remembers the conversation that he has with his brother, like we were gonna break that generational trauma. It's a dark one, very grief centered, but I landed at a 4-star with it. I did enjoy it, but again, like a lot of these are very, very dark. Definitely check your trigger warnings, which I feel like was a given with this one, with what I've already talked about. But I think that it's just going to continue. The next one, though, was a little bit more, dare I say, lighthearted. No. It's Eric LaRocca, and it is I Hope This Finds You Well. And what a wild ride. I finished a story and said, what the was that? This is like a club organization, but it's like one of those. It's like a club for these men who get together and do it. It is like a sexual endeavor club, and it starts with this guy who's in this organization, and he gets a letter from one of the newer people who he hasn't had relations with. He doesn't really know this person very well, so he's kind of surprised he's getting a letter. And pretty much almost the whole story is this guy's letter to him explaining that he is very open with his wife about how he's not fulfilled and that he has to come to this place to be fulfilled. And at the same time, he says, in 5 days, Christmas, something terrible is going to happen. Like, I can just feel it. There's been really weird things. And then he goes on to describe some of his like sexual encounters with the other men and like some of the things they were doing. It becomes very horrific because I know what path it's leading down. And yeah, the ending is definitely a big bang. I landed at 5 stars, but it's dark and very unhinged. The next one was The Buried Child by M. Rickert. And this is about this woman who reads this like news report or watches this news report, one of those two, and sees that a local man and his young daughter found bones in the woods. And this spirals into something that you need to go into blindly. It triggers kind of like her dark past, her dark childhood, and what she went through, and all the secrets that have been hidden since then. And it's another unhinged, super dark one, but at the same time, I'm eating these up. Like, they're just, it's such good horror. It definitely frightens you. And these are the elements that I feel like these all compiled together has just made it such a dark and unhinged read that I'm just loving it. I feel like they all kind of have like that same level of like just what that it just is really working. This collection feels like such a unit and just amazing. I definitely would check out more from Lindy Ryan, especially if she edits any more of these, because this is just incredible. All of these stories have just been amazing, and these people are just so talented, but definitely dark, definitely trauma, and it's intense. I did land at 5 stars with that one as well. I've just had 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. The next one though is a 4-star for me. This is Father's Last Christmas by Lee Murray. This is about a kingdom. The king has said that he has been cursed by a witch. He is dying, so now it's who is going to take the throne, and all of his very dark and sadistic sons are coming forward and bringing their gifts, and they get darker and darker and darker. It's like a bloodbath. It's fighting to the death. It's very intense, and then it's silly at the same time, and wraps up in a way that is kind of more of a silly horror, although it's very unhinged and dark, and again, a bloodbath all the way through. I did have a really good time with it, but I am landing, I think, at a 4-star with it, if not a low 5-star. So since I'm loving this so much, I think I'm going to continue reading this morning. I have some chores and stuff to get done, day-to-day things, and I do have to get some more editing done. I'm really trying to stay on top of my YouTube videos and get into that routine for this year. And so far I'm killing it, and I'm so glad that you guys have been loving some of my recent videos. It really means a lot to me. And the amount of like messages I've been receiving lately and comments have just been great. I know that I'm not always super present when it comes to commenting back to people on here. I'm so bad, but you can always find me on Instagram. I love finding other people who are passionate about books and horror and just all things creepy, eerie, and even cozy hobbies. I follow a wide variety of people, but I love connecting with you and discussing our favorites and what we have in common and all of that. So you guys can find me over at Allie Brand Reads on Instagram. I am hoping to read a couple more of these just because I'm really enjoying myself, and then I'm going to jump back into the Dead Zone so that I can hopefully finish that one out today. Start on maybe the horror novella next, but it's starting to get down to crunch time, I fear.
I'm gonna tell you to read Harrow, and I do want to, but also I really want to continue Magnolia Parks, and this also has a skyline. So the plot doesn't matter.
No, I bring my camera with me to vlog and my battery's dying. I did read some more though. I read The Warmth of Snow by Cynthia Pelayo. This is about a girl obsessed with love stories. Her mom forbids her and tells her that she won't ever have that. And we find out that she has like this rare skin condition that keeps her inside. She's homeschooled and she's going to live out her life like at that home. She's also obsessed with like Hamlet and Shakespeare, so how everything was like put together with the ending was really good. I feel like I got bored in most of it, but again, the ending really pulled it together and made it all make sense. And it was just like devastating. Another like super sad one. I'm landing at a 4-star with it. I also read Wintry Blue by Christopher Golden and Tim Leben. It was this take on like a winter creature feature, so like think wendigos or wolves, werewolves, that type of vibe. But we start off with a father-daughter who are traveling, I think, to like their cabin, and in the middle of the road there's like this injured woman that they like hit, and she says, you know, like, I'm fine. They get her in the truck and she's like, you gotta go. They're after me. They only ate my fingers, but they want to eat my heart. And then it jumps back to a timeline of her and her, like, man who she's, like, going to, like, this cabin with, and how he turns on her. And so it's kind of like this, like, cat and mouse chase where this now creature is trying to go after them. And again, it's gonna end with another, like, gut-wrenching, like, just sad story, but it was so creative and just so cool. I think that I am landing at a 4-star with it. I don't think it's a perfect 5 for me. And then the last one I read was Carol of the Hell by Kelsey Yu, and this was kind of like a spin on like the Christmas, like, past, present, and future, but like just with the past. So this girl, she's talking about how sad her life is and stuff now, but she gets the opportunity to go back in time to the night that tragically changed her and her family's life. It's when, I don't want to spoil it, but like something major happens, like they lose members of their family. It's like a big fire that happens, and she knows like what caused it, and she's doing everything in her power to like change the past. And it's just, dare I say, heartbreaking and gut-wrenching once again, because it was such a sad one. But I think I'm landing very high 4 or another 5. I'm eating this up and it's making me not pick up the Dead Zone like I need to be, but I'm in parent pickup. I'm about to pick up the little one and then see where this evening takes us.
Do another round in the summer called Summerween, and the whole goal of this readathon is basically just to bring the spooky vibes of Halloween into the different seasons, because, you know, I am such a Halloween fan and I just miss celebrating Halloween at all times of the year. So that's what we're doing. I will have the announcement video linked down below if you want to know more information about Winterween. We also do have an Instagram called @ThisIsSummerween, and over there we do have some Instagram daily prompts if you want like a little bit of a photo challenge, and we do have a music video this year. I was supposed to be reading my book, but I got distracted by my cell phone. I was trying to read genres I usually don't. Now I feel like I'm in a reading slump. For a fortnight there, we were reading our books under the same moon, talking about the horror. Now the skies are gloomy and the trees are bare, and I miss Halloween. I just don't feel me. I miss Halloween. It's ruining my life.
Welcome to the last day of Winterween, and welcome to my closet. I am getting ready because it's just been a busy day, and it dawned on me that it is the final day of Winterween, and I haven't even vlogged today. So, yesterday, I did in fact, don't let this fool you, I did in fact finish this. I just have a couple things bookmarked because they are like little Easter eggs to some of his other books. I love when he does that so much. So I do have those bookmarked, but I did finish this last night. And again, I did not realize how long it was going to take me to finish this book, but I enjoyed the journey. I feel like the more it went on, I kind of was like, okay, where is this going? And it kind of turned into less like, I feel like horror or even suspense or thriller or anything, and just kind of, we just started reading about this guy's life, and then it started to like develop into things. There would be like certain elements, like for instance, him using his ability to help with I think I even read it in the synopsis, like a crime case, a like strangler, and solving that case, and like those parts of it were so cool. And then it was just like it was over, and then it's like more of his life, and I'm just like, okay, wrap it up, you know. But then like something else interesting would happen, and like the last part of it was very like political and very heavy, extremely right now with the state of the United States right now. So I felt like I struggled with it a little bit with that, because I was just like, this is horrifying because it feels so real life right now. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good one, but not like a top contender for me when it comes to his work. I am glad I finally got to it. And it is definitely different than what I was expecting, not knowing that this was a type of like gift this guy has, versus like thinking it was like an actual like maybe war or like an actual zone that was like dead, or I don't know. I feel like there's so much you could do with the dead zone, the name, but I thought it was another cool concept. I feel like I've read so much of his like books recently where the main character has like these abilities or this gift and stuff like that. Maybe too much back to back to back, and I need just some of his like full-on horror again, but I enjoyed my time. I'm landing at a 3 or a 4. I don't know which, but it's a 3 or a 4. Today I have been working my way through the anthology again, The Darkest Night. I read Nice by Nat Cassidy. This one was so good, very Christmas. So this family is kind of just like, to be careful what I say, that's why I came in here, because it is already afternoon, boys are home and stuff, but this is about these parents who they're trying to come to terms with like how to like talk to their son about Christmas and stuff, and at the same time they're like, let's just like enjoy it while we can, and he mentioned something to her about like nice touch with like the elf on the shelf, and she's like, oh, and she doesn't really think about it, and later she thinks like, wait a minute, did he say elf on the shelf? Like, I'm not doing that. It's a real elf that like starts talking to this little boy and telling him like Santa is like working us to death, and like I need you to be naughty so that like the workload is less, and really you'll be helping all of us out, all of us elves. If you love Christmas and you love all of us so much, you'll really be helping us out. And so he leaves, and when he comes back, it's the most disturbing thing ever, because like the kid took his word for it and was very naughty. I give it 5 stars. It was a good time. Then Thaw by Rachel Harrison. This was about a couple who go away on like their first like getaway together, and it's already kind of rocky. You can tell like this girl is not vibing with this guy as much as I feel like she wanted to, or how much she's trying to, and he keeps saying just like these really douchebag things. Like it's not a good time. And while they're there, she looks out the back window, and just in a random part in the backyard, there's a snowman, and she's like, that's so weird, and she keeps talking about it, and he's like, can you just drop it? And they even like go out and get in the hot tub and stuff for a little bit, and they're just chilling, and she's like, I'm just really uneasy about this. And he was like, I'm sure just like the owners like wanted to make it more festive, so they built a snowman for their left. And she's like, but why wouldn't they put it in the front yard? And in the morning when she gets up, she's still super uneasy about it, and she gets up and she sees that the snowman has moved, and she's like, I knew it. And from there it just goes into another unhinged story, cursed snowman, if you will. I gave it 5 stars as well. Then Candy Cane by Tommy Hudson. It's bad when my handwriting is so bad I can't read it. But this was about a true crime author. That's what I gathered from it. I feel like the beginning was kind of weird. But he is writing, like it was cool. Like he's writing a story, and it's like, I thought like, okay, like we're getting like this story is just the point of view of like the killer, and they're like attacking right now, where it's like it's just this guy's like book that he's writing, so it's like really intense and gory and like, you know, and a lot, especially since it's like true crime, but he's writing it in a fiction way. And then he gets a knock at his door from a fan who ends up not wanting to leave, and it gets dark. I did enjoy it, but I did land at a 4 with it. I feel like it wasn't as wild as I felt like it could have been, or there's just some elements that fell a little flat for me with it. The next one was very interesting, Eggnog by Christy Meister. This was about a woman who recently had a baby, and she is going out for the first time after having him. Her mother-in-law's watching him, and it starts off with that tone that like I normally kind of struggle with just because I went through postpartum depression really hard, that it's sometimes really hard reading stories about like new-time moms or first-time moms and like those struggles at the beginning, because my God, does it take me back. And she's just really having a hard time, but she's excited to get away for the night and to, you know, have a little bit of that break, and she's going through all of the emotions of being a new-time mom, and with that comes some hatred and some bitterness towards everybody else and feeling like nobody understands where you're coming from because you're struggling so bad. And she goes to this, so it was already kind of a rocky start for me. So they go to this party and she brings her brownies, and she right away meets this woman who's kind of like filling her husband and like touching his arm and like being super friendly with him, and she's calling herself the work wife and just really cringy stuff like that. It's evolved into like a jealousy, rage, revenge type story. That I think had really cool concepts, being a holiday party and being centered around holiday elements like eggnog and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool, but ultimately I just, again, have a really hard time. I think this is more of a personal opinion. I have a really hard time with all the elements that unfolded in the story, but also just I love the rage, I love the revenge, I love all of that, but there's so many elements that just fell flat for me with this one, because it wasn't like the husband was going for the other woman. It wasn't, I don't know, and it just evolved into like almost like a woman hating woman, not supporting each other and just being very nasty, and I don't know. I didn't vibe with it. I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't horrible, but it definitely, so far has been my least favorite out of the whole book. The next one is Threads of Epiphany by Sarah Tanglinger. I don't think I've ever read anything by her either. This was very like whimsical, magic, fantasy, if you will. This is about a woman who her brother is dying and needs a new heart, and so she seeks out a witch, and the witch tells her like, if you'll work for me, pretty much like put this thread like on a spindle and like work for her or whatever and stay there with her in exchange for a new heart for her brother. And this other girl comes in and she's like, oh, you know, this girl, she, you know, wants something from the witch too, and now she's having to work for her too, when really the new one is wanting to take down the witch. And yeah, it was an okay time. I felt like it was a little too long for my liking for where the story went, and then the wrap-up of it was just, it just felt really off with this collection. It felt really out of place with everything else I feel like that's been in this collection so far. That I landed at a 3. I have 4 stories left, so I am going to get to them today. I started an Edgar Allan Poe earlier, and I think it's a DNF, Eureka. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know. Can anybody else like tell me what is going on in this long ass poem? Because I just don't know. I also read The Philosophy of Furniture, and like, I just don't see myself rating it. Like, it's just, it is exactly what it sounds like. He just describes furniture. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I'm glad I read it because I'm trying to read all of his stuff, but I'm kind of coming to terms with some of these weird ones that they might just be DNFs. But that leaves me with needing to get to these last 4 short stories from this anthology to finish up the anthology, and then I have to finish reading my horror novella from Nat Cassidy, Rest Stop, that I've already started and I'm really enjoying it. I'm just not very far in it, so we'll talk soon after I go do my errands. I gotta run to the library, stuff like that, so we'll talk soon. extremely wrong to be filming this in my bathroom right now after what I just read. I in fact finished Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy, and I am so unbelievably tired and ready to wrap up this video that this is what it's come to. You guys get to hang out with me while I do my skincare and fill you in on my last books. Nat Cassidy is whew, something. This one was so gross. It follows this guy who, Abe, who is on the road to go see his grandmother who is in a coma, and you know, his family said like she's not gonna make it. And so he is on the road and he's in a band with his best friend, and he's kind of like dealing with a lot of stuff in his personal life with said friend and his band, kind of really going through it. So he's kind of excited to be going on this trip, for one thing, to kind of get away, but at the same time he's not looking forward to it because he has to go, you know, kind of like for the rest of his family too, but him and his grandmother never really got along. She was kind of an awful person. So he's kind of just like delaying the process. Like he doesn't really want to go anyways. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to make a pit stop. I'm going to go to this rest stop and go to the bathroom and get some snacks and gas and whatever. And it just spirals into this just horrible, traumatic story of stopping at a rest stop in the middle of the night. And oh my gosh, spirals into so many, like, I feel like hidden messages within the story. I feel like it talked about like your own like personal growth and like your own insecurities, and you know, so many life lessons that this character kind of went through in this journey, but also so many messages for us readers too on just like the state of the world and with politics and religion and so much stuff that it was really good. Editing Allie is going to have to make the decision because I'm too tired, so I don't know if this is a 4-star or a 5-star. I feel like it is potentially a 5-star for me. There was just a couple elements of it, directions that it went, that kind of was like, you know, but I really enjoyed it. It's gory, it's sick, it's gross, but so many elements of it I absolutely loved. Besides that, I did finish the anthology too. I left you guys off with The Ladies' Society for the Dead by Darcy Coates. This is about a group of ladies who discuss like death, and in this certain get-together, one of them is discussing the death of a woman who was killed by her husband because he wanted to go and be with his quote-unquote mistress, and he got away with it. And so she tells like that whole story of this woman, and then they hold like a seance to like talk to her. It was honestly like good. Like I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. The next one, Being Nice by Jeff Strand. If anything, I want to read more from Jeff Strand. This was such a good time. It's so funny. It's like a funny horror. Like I was like giggling reading this. It was so funny. This man is like he's about to turn 18, and he goes downstairs in the middle of the night and sees Santa in the living room, and he's like, oh, you know, I can't really sleep at night. So sorry to like walk in on you and stuff. And it's just the banter between this guy and Santa is hilarious. And he's like, well, you know, you are 18, so like this is like your last year and stuff. And then he realizes that Santa's giving him coal, and he's like, yeah, because you're on the naughty list. And then the rest of the book is him trying to like prove to Santa like that he can get off like the naughty list. And it's so unhinged and just so hysterical. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. Then we have Ghosted by Mercedes M. Yardley. Is that what my handwriting says? This is about a widow who is trying to just get through the holidays. She's recently lost her husband. Her friends and stuff are like trying to get her to like get over it pretty much. And she's like, I'm good. Like, I don't need your guys' help. Like, you know, I'm still gonna show up to things. And she's showing up to like these events where like all these couples are together. So it's like really hard. What seems like her friends are trying to introduce her to someone ends up being the complete opposite. And on top of that, she's being like visited by the ghost of her husband. It was a pretty good time too, but with this one, I think I am landing at a 4. And then the last one was Bruiser by Jamie Flanagan. And I seen something that the Flanagan name was brought up at the end in the acknowledgements talking about Jamie Flanagan from like some of Mike Flanagan's stuff. So I feel like I'm just out of the loop of knowing who this person is. So I do want to like look into that because I thought that was really cool. But at the same time, I was not a fan of the story. It was probably that, I don't know, it might have been my least favorite. This was about like a woman. It was really hard at the beginning to kind of gather the story, but we gather that she's a nurse, and I believe she's working at like this this home, like elderly home, and like taking care of them. And she is dealing like with this patient who is slowly like going like senile and like kind of just losing it. And it's like, I think supposed to be like grief. It's obviously like touching on grief and, you know, the sad parts and of, you know, that type of ordeal and like what these nurses have to like face, seeing these people, who they are when they come and then who they are like when they're leaving and stuff. But there were so many elements that were added into the story that was just like really weird. It didn't really ever feel like horror, and then when we had a like a morsel of horror, it like went completely south and was just something completely different. I don't know. It wasn't like a horrible story, but again, just felt so out of place. Like another one that's out of place in this, that I don't know. I would give it 2 or 3 stars. Like it wasn't really anything super, I don't know. Oh, and I almost forgot, the Anthology, The Darkest Night. How I rate all of my anthologies is just by looking at how many stars I gave them, and whichever I had the most of wins. So I had 3 stars in this collection of 22 stories. I had 8 4 stars, but I had 11 5 stars. This is probably the best like collection and anthology I've ever read. Just an amazing horror anthology. Definitely think we're kind of getting past the vibes it's giving, and I think that the best payoff for this one would really come during December and Christmas time. That type of holiday time is when you should pick this one up. So again, if you haven't picked it up by December 2025, that is the time to pick it up, and I'll have to try to remind you guys then. But yeah, I'm landing at a 5 star. I don't think I've ever landed at a 5 star with an anthology before. With that being said, I think I have checked all my boxes for this readathon. Although I have been reading the anthology like throughout my days, I have been reading some of them at night. Even tonight, I was just sitting in front of the lamp, crocheting. I want to show you guys some more eyeballs, and they are very on brand with Nat Cassidy's story, so rest stop. So yeah, I got some of those done. So I checked off that prompt. I did read a horror thriller. I read a book with a house, or, you know, the House of Bone and Rain. So it's in the title and it's on the cover. And I read a horror book published 5 or more years ago, Stephen King's The Dead Zone, and also a novella, Nat Cassidy's Rest Stop, or audiobook, The Darkest Night anthology. So yeah, I cleared my TBR list for Winterween. I had so much fun. Shout out to Gabby again for hosting an amazing readathon. I can't wait for Summerween. But I am ready for bed. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for my skincare with me. Let me know what you read for Winterween, and if you read any of these. I definitely have more Edgar Allan Poe to get to, although the two I read for this were just duds for me, but I'm excited that I got to the majority of my TBR and had a really good time. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.